Ladies and gentlemen, seekers of light and secret knowledge wherever you may be, you are listening to Points of Light Radio, the podcast dedicated to taking you past the apron and behind the closed doors of lodges everywhere. And here is your host, Stan Miller.
Greetings, brothers and sisters. Shalom. Assalamu alaikum. It's always a pleasure to be here with you on Points of Light Radio. And I hope you're enjoying the segments you've seen and heard so far. I know I'm enjoying taking this journey with you. In today's segment, though, I thought I'd take a pause and reflect on the journey so far. Did you like Herr Grippo and the Free Gardeners, as I like to call him? Wasn't he a gem? And how about Michael Duke and the Knights of Pythias, or in the Order of the Secret Monitor that he talked about? Very open and friendly, don't you think? And how about Lorraine Cosmacini from the Fraternal Order of Moose? Absolute pleasure speaking to her. And let's talk about Jamie James and the Ancient Mystic Order of Samaritans that he talked about. Well, just to give you a heads up, we'll be talking to him again. And then there's my buddy, or our buddy, shall we say, Owen Snowden from Great Britain, talking about the Orange Lodge and the Royal Antediluvian Order of Buffaloes. Didn't you just want to sit down and have a beer with him, or a cup of coffee, or, and just to give you the heads up, we're not done with him yet either. He's got more he's going to talk about with fellowship, when in fellowship with us. Right. And let's not forget Christine Chapman from Freemasonry for Women. Didn't you love her commitment, her openness, right? Her passion for that particular organization she belonged to, and a different one, several dependent bodies of Freemasonry as well she belonged to. Right. And I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm making friends here. Right. Right. And I'm not done with any of these groups. And I've said to you before, I've already mentioned some of them, but I'm not done with any of these groups or individuals. I'm really not. I have another guest from the Oddfellows I will definitely be speaking to, and I hope to have more women Freemasons on as well. Those of you who might be listening from the Daughters of the Nile and everything, I've been reaching out, right? Let's fellowship here, right? And on a personal level, there are some questions I still have of my own here. As I said before, some of my questions have been answered as I've gone along here. I don't know about you, but some of them haven't. And I definitely have some new questions as well. I asked, for instance, why more fraternal lodges don't have open houses. Well, some of them do, as I'm finding as I'm going along here. Does Freemasonry or fraternalism run in families? It seems that in most cases it does. From my guest here, if you've been following as well, it may skip a generation, but it does seem to run in families. Not just Freemasonry, but other lodges as well. Right? And from my research, I've noticed that fraternalism is growing in Africa and the Philippines. Now, here's another thing. I do want to speak to some of these fraternities, these lodges from the like I'm noticing, for instance, from what I'm looking at. Of course, the Knights of Pythias is growing in the Philippines, but so is the Fraternal Order of Eagles and the Oddfellows. So if you're in the Philippines or you're in Africa, right, I know the Free Gardeners is also growing in the Philippines and Africa. I am, just to give you the heads up, I have started a conversation with the Free Gardeners in the Philippines, right? But some of the other organizations as well. I want to hear from you. Right, have your leadership get in touch with me, right? I mean, let's talk, right? But there are some other things I've been wondering about. I love the commitment, as I've said, of my guests. They're very committed and very passionate about their lodges and their involvements in their lodges. But maybe that is a question one should have before joining, should they not? Do I have time? Right? Michael Duke, Jamie James, and Owen Snowden weren't just members, but they were also very involved, and they were involved in either appendant bodies of their lodges or different lodges, completely different lodges from like Owen Snowden was in the Orange Lodge, the Black, the Buffaloes. I mean, what wasn't that guy? And I love that man, love the man, right? But he was involved in many different ones. Herr Grippo was involved in the Free Gardeners, but also Freemasonry. So one has to ask before you join, do I have time? Right? As you move, I mean, after one joins, it's only fair to put the work in for the benefits, is it not? You get out of it what you put into it, right? As they say. But as you move forward and on into appendant bodies of these organizations, there will be increasing demands for your time and commitment, right? Maybe that's what keeps people away from advancing further into these organizations or joining them at all, right? Is there anything they could do to make it maybe less time consuming, or to help people who are committed a little more committed to it? Maybe that is another question that has to be asked by the organizations themselves. I'd also love to hear more about dues. What are the dues for these? Or some of my guests have touched on it, but what is the cost of membership? For instance, I understand with Freemasonry, the further you go on into it, the regalia and things like that, the membership dues can start to add up, right? What is the cost to the individual for this? I want to hear more about that, right? I'm also getting comments. Believe it or not, some of you are leaving comments, and I appreciate this. But I'm getting comments about the incompatibility of fraternalism in faith. What do you think? Right? Is there a reverend, rabbi, or priest who wants to appear in here and talk about that? One way or another, whether they believe in it, whether they don't believe it's compatible, let's talk about that. These are questions that are worth exploring here, right? Going forward, just to give you the heads up here, going forward, I'll be interviewing the Black Preceptory and the Oddfellows, more Oddfellows, shall we say. I'm also in the preliminary stages of setting up fellowship with the Order of Athelstan, Prince Hall Freemasons, Apprentice Boys of Derry, Fraternal Order of Eagles, or the Fraternal Order of Orioles, and several other organizations, right? I did hear you say, who? Well, that's what, Points of Light Radio is actually here to do, right? It's here to raise the awareness and preserve the history of fraternalism, right? And did I mention your organization? Well, maybe if I didn't, maybe you have to get hold of your leadership. Tell them to contact me, okay? Let's fellowship. But I'm afraid we'll have to leave it there for now. But before we part, I want to mention that Points of Light Radio is available on both YouTube and Spreaker. Please share, like, and subscribe when viewing Points of Light Radio on YouTube. You can follow Points of Light Radio on my Facebook page at facebook.com/Points of Light Radio. My Twitter handle is at PO Light Radio. You can see the link to my Spotify channel, as well as my Points of Light Radio store, where you can go and purchase some of my stylish merchandise here, as well as some other fraternal merchandise at a very reasonable price. I also want to point out that Points of Light Radio is available to advertise your fraternal store event. Just get in touch with me via Twitter or Facebook, or the email address on my Points of Light Facebook page. Next week's guest will be Leonard Matt from the Fraternal Order of Eagles. I can't wait to introduce him to you. Brothers and sisters, I'm sorry to part with you, but until we meet again, remember, just step into the light.